requests. Oh, perfect. All right. Okay, so imagine paying hundreds of billions of dollars every semester uh, just for students to park their car on campus before you've even paid tuition, books, or housing. For many students here at USC, parking isn't optional. It's something we rely on to get to class, to go to work, and access campus resources. But the cost of parking creates a real financial burden that often gets overlooked. As a USC student myself, I've experienced how frustrating and expensive parking can be, and I know many other students feel the same way. That's why I believe USC should reduce student parking garage costs or implement a tiered pricing system because current prices create financial strain, limit access to campus, and lead to inequity among students. First, I'll explain the problem. Then I'll present a solution, and finally, I'll explain why this change benefits both students and the university. So to start, the current parking system places a financial burden on students. According to USC Parking and Transportation website, student parking permits can cost several $100s per year. When you can combine that with tuition, housing, and other expenses, it becomes a serious issue. This doesn't just affect students financially, it also affects access. When parking is too expensive, some students choose not to come to campus as often. That can impact attendance, involvement, and even academic success. So overall, the current system doesn't just cost money, it limits opportunity. So a practical solution to this problem is implementing a tiered pricing system, or at least reducing costs for students. A system would allow students to choose different pricing levels based on how often they use parking or their financial situation. According to research on university transportation systems, many campuses have adopted flexible pricing models to make parking more accessible while still maintaining efficiency. This kind of system recognizes that not all students have the same financial resources, and it creates a more fair structure. This solution offers several important benefits. First, it increases accessibility and fairness. More students would be able to afford parking, which helps reduce inequality across campus. Secondly, it improves student satisfaction. When students feel supported by their university, they are more likely to stay engaged and involved around campus. According to a report from the American Public Transportation Association, improving transportation access leads to higher student participation and engagement. Some may argue that lower prices would reduce revenue for the university. However, studies on pricing strategies show that flexible pricing models can actually maintain revenue while increasing usage. So this solution is not only fair, but it's also practical. In conclusion, USC should reduce parking costs or implement a tiered pricing system to better support its students. We've looked at how current systems create financial strain, how a tiered system offers a realistic solution, and how it benefits both students and the university. I urge USC Parking and Transportation Services and the Board of Trustees to reevaluate parking policies and implement a system that makes parking more accessible and equitable for students. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I can take the first one. So my question for you is, what would those tiers be, the tiers that you want to create?
So I would suggest a few different tiers based on usage and access. For example, one lower cost option could be for students who only need parking a few days of the week or are okay with parking farther from central campus. Then there could be a mid-tier option for regularly access and a higher tier option for premium garage parking close to major buildings. This kind of system gives students more choices and makes it more fair based on how much they actually use parking.
I think that sounds great.
Thank you. Good question.
I can take
What
the
would,
next one.
oh, sorry.
You're good.
Sorry. Uh, do you have the data on how much the university makes per year from student parking permits and passes?
Yeah, so I don't have an exact number for USC specifically, but parking services are typically designed to be self-sustaining and generate significant revenue for universities. That's actually part of the reason I proposed a tier system instead of just cutting prices across the board, because it allows the university to make revenue while still parking more affordable for students.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
What would be an example of the lower cost for parking garages?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, right now, parking garage permits can cost several hundreds of dollars. I know for USC, it's about 880 per year. Um, so a realistic reduction could be bringing that down 20 to 30%. So, for example, if a permit costs around 500, lowering it somewhere to like 350 would make it more manageable for students while still allowing the university to make a good bit of revenue. Good
Sounds good.
question.
So how much should parking cost at like lower tiers or upper tiers just in general for students, like the average?
Yeah, I think that parking permits should be priced in a way that reflects all of students' financial realities, not just one. Ideally, they should be significantly lower than what they are now, especially for students who rely on parking daily. A reasonable range might be closer to a few $100s per year, depending on access level, rather than pushing towards the higher end that we see now, around like $800, $900.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.